Hello, I'm Pertwee Smith 11, and I'm not the host of Whovian High Council because your boy's back. Scarabundas Productions is here, but he's on my channel and I'm hosting it, but I'm not really. So yeah, Matt, get on with it.
Oh my goodness, this is weird. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Whovian Council. It's been a little while. Of course, series 11 has begun now. I couldn't be here last week because I was a bit worse for wear, so James took it my place. The Ghost Monuments second episode. Let's get to it, basically. So, opening thoughts. Ben, go ahead.
I thought the episode was very nice. I enjoyed this episode quite a lot. I felt very early Hartnell, which I very much appreciate because I'm in a Hartnell mood right now. So I'm just loving it. I'm loving it because it does feel like a Hartnell episode, like the boat section. You can just see that being one episode in the Hartnell era. So yeah, I thought the episode was very nice.
Very good. Luke.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable episode. Very quick, went from point to point. Sometimes a little bit too quick, but nevertheless, I enjoyed all the different points that it went to. I enjoyed the concept of it having this race. I think it started off very well, very action-packed for the beginning. You got the characters split up, then coming together for a very enjoyable adventure, really, before finally reaching the TARDIS at the end. So, yeah, I would say a very just enjoyable episode, really. It's one of those ones that isn't a masterpiece. You could see its flaws, but it's one you could stick on and enjoy.
I agree. James.
Yeah, I thought this one was great. I really enjoyed last week's, and this one I thought was even better. Again, it's a chase story, so there's not a lot you can do with that, but they did manage to push the limits of that story to the fullest by filling it with like all this character detail and tension, which I watched it in like this group, and we all kind of had to like breathe afterwards because it was just very, very tense. It was almost like you needed to lie down after the action scenes. I thought this episode was great, and I think Chibnall and the team have rarely just got this series down already.
Very good. And Adam.
Hi guys. I really enjoyed this episode too. I thought Chris Chibnall made another solid script. I quite like this episode. Had a shorter supporting cast actually. I thought, and the supporting cast did very, very well. Cool visuals and a very just fun, entertaining night of Doctor Who.
Very good, and I'll give my thoughts on last week's as well, since I couldn't be there. So just we got it documented. So when we fell to Earth last week, I enjoyed it. I wasn't particularly blown away by it, but I thought it was a good opening episode. But one thing that did stand out to me with that one was while I was watching it, it did sort of stick out. It became clearer what the Moffat era was really missing to like target towards the mainstream audience. Like I was seeing on like people's Instagram stories who people are like far from being a fan of like Doctor Who like we are, and of them actually watching it. So I could see like how it was targeting towards the mainstream audience and what the Moffat era was really missing out on, such as the characters actually felt like people, and stuff like that. Really, it was nice, or like a nice start for like the character arc and all that. So that was good, but the story itself I thought was nothing too major, but as a start it was pretty decent. I'd probably give that one a 7 out of 10. And as for this one, I thought it was a bit of an improvement. I definitely enjoyed it. It was a nice sort of fast-paced story. I enjoyed the fact that how like last week we didn't rush into anything. Like we didn't rush into like introducing the new TARDIS console. This episode was just built around introducing the new TARDIS and all that, and I quite enjoyed that. It was a nice fast-paced story. I sort of felt like this episode was what Smile was to Series 10. It was like a good plot you could stick along to, but it was mainly focused on just developing the characters, and I enjoyed it for that reason. But as I mentioned, this whole episode was built towards the reveal of the TARDIS, and that's sort of probably one of the biggest talking points about this episode. So we may as well get it out there and what we think of this reveal. Of course, there's been a few leaks along the way, but tonight was the first time we saw it on the screen. So let's kick it off. James, thoughts?
I've really loved everything that this series has been doing, all the way from the marketing the first episode. I love the Sonic. I love the title sequence. I love the theme. But I really think they went for the complete wrong decision with the TARDIS. As I'll be honest, I just can't really stand it. To be honest, it's like I don't hate it, but I kind of do. It's grown on me a little bit, but it just reminds me too much of Matt Smith's first TARDIS. You know, that really shit TARDIS. I just don't like it. I think the TARDIS should be more scientific, not organic in a way. Like, I kind of think it worked for the RTD era, but maybe that's just because that was like our first TARDIS pretty much. But I don't know. It's not gelling with me at all. I hate the sand timer. I hate the mini TARDIS on the console room, and I hate the biscuit dispenser. I feel weird starting off on a negative since there's so many positives in the story. But yeah, it's not for me. I don't really think it fits Jodie's Doctor either, because she seems a very hands-on, gadgety, DIY Doctor. So having like this really organic TARDIS, I just don't really think it gels well with her kind of character. And it's usually the TARDIS should complement the character of the Doctor, but I don't know. It's just weird. And there's a lot of little things like the giant opaque what's the thing that goes? Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. The column. This really opaque crystal that's so bulky and awkward, because it with the TARDIS, like you usually can just look through the glass to see who you're talking to, or at least with the RTD one, you could either look through or you could just easily turn your head to look around. Well, this thing is massive, so I think looking to each other, it's very impractical. It's not for me, but it's to sell toys, I think, and I can definitely see us maybe getting a TARDIS playset this year. But yeah, the TARDIS, I don't like it. I love the inside porch though of it, with the 3 doors. It's literally breaking the fourth wall of reality. I really love that. That's the only positive for that TARDIS for me, sadly.
Fair dues. Adam.
Yeah, I looked at. I think it's all right, I guess. I'm not too fan of the pillars actually. I think they look slightly awkward, but other than that, console. Yeah, I'm not really settled on that yet. And like the Dragonfire crystal in the middle, I interesting design choice, I guess, but I think I agree with James. I say I don't think it fits Jodie's Doctor at all, as it is more gadgety and such. And I feel like the episode, I feel like the scene actually was pretty decent with them, with Jodie looking, it getting her reaction, and then them eventually stepping in later. I thought it was a good scene, but then I didn't feel like that scene deserved such a. Yeah, basically, I didn't feel like the TARDIS in any way. It didn't feel like the TARDIS to me as much as other TARDIS consoles did, I guess. Probably one of the weaker designs, I guess, along with that, with Smith's first one.
All right, Luke.
Yeah, I feel like this is a TARDIS of 2 layers in many ways. You sort of like got that outer layer that you first see when you go through the door, where you have all that sort of like those roundels sort of things where it's all like bronzy and whatnot. And I love the lighting in it as well. And so like that layer very much reminds me quite a bit of the Doctor's room in the Invasion of Time. Does anyone knows what I'm talking about there? So like where it's lead lined and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I get memories of that from like that outer area bit. But then when you get to the inside and you've got like those weird crystal columns and so like the what's it called? The console itself and everything. Not a big fan of what's going on in there. At least when I did see the leaked picture, I will admit, and I thought it looked horrible there. It does look a lot better here where it's properly lit and everything. I like the dark lighting, very atmospheric. You sort of like got the dust going around. It does feel Very well done in that sense. But just the crystal design, I'm not really feeling it at all. The weird gadgets that it's got going on, I'm not a big fan of. Custard cream dispenser, I kind of like, to be honest. I think it's a weird thing, but I can live with it. And yeah, just overall, very much like what's going on the outside. When you get to the console bit on the inside, not too much, to be honest.
Rodo and Ben.
Yeah, as everyone said, Dragonfire on steroids. Now, I feel like, to me, we were very much spoilt with the Moffat era TARDISes, because that's one thing what I loved about the Moffat era TARDIS, because it brought layers to the TARDIS, and I kind of miss that it's very much just like on a platform, and I feel like this is very much a step down, and it kind of feels like, oh, we've blown all the budget on these new cameras and go into these fancy locations to make it look visually stunning, and this episode is a prime example of it looking brilliant. Then we get to the TARDIS and it's like, oh, what we got in the props cupboard? Oh, we'll just bash that together, because it is very much a mishmash of ideas. And I feel like what people have said, the Invasion of Time. But the TARDIS, for me, it's a bit low lit for me. I feel like Jodie is a bright, colourful, energetic Doctor, and yet it's very dark and gloomy. I feel like it almost feels like it should be Capaldi in a way. Like I feel like the TARDIS should be a bit more brighter. I mean, we haven't seen much of it in action yet, so we can't really properly judge it. But I personally like the little mini TARDIS, because I kind of think it's a bit of a callback to Death of the Daleks, when the Daleks had a little mini TARDIS in their ship. And the custard cream dispenser, well, that's very British, isn't it? It's all going, oh, look, I'm quirky, so I appreciate that, because everybody likes tea and biscuits. It's a good combo. But yeah, I like the hexagons, but the problem I have with it, again, it obviously is the low lighting, but I don't like the crystal structure, because it just seems very plasticky looking at it. And I like what James said, that the organic TARDIS has kind of been done before. And I feel like we need to, I thought that we'd actually get a bit more of a classic TARDIS look, because obviously the exterior is very classic in its shape. But the interior, it's just a weird mishmash of Invasion of Time and the Series 5 Matt Smith's first TARDIS. So yeah, I'm on the fence of it. I don't mind it, but it's just in a bit of a shame, really, when we've had such a lovely bit of stuff so far from the series.
And yeah, most like everyone said, I agree, to be honest. I mean, what can I say, really? I mean, I think the vibe they were going for was like very Tennant-ish in places, and like with like the pillars and all that. And I don't know, it didn't really fit. Like Ben said, it's very Series 5 TARDIS, and I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, I'm sure it will grow. I mean, we'll see where it goes. Of course, the other talking point as well, we got the brand new title sequence. Sorry, James, go on.
Point about it just occurred to me. Right, I avoided that leaked image of the TARDIS. I've avoided that for about 3 months now, and I've actually just gone and looked at it, and it's made me realise that without that pillar structure, the TARDIS would look a hell of a lot better. And I've gone back and looked at that. Do you know that shot where it's the high angle shot looking down at the TARDIS? It makes this TARDIS look so cramped and small, and you can kind of get that in the direction of when they're moving the camera around, because in the middle of this shot, they've got this big bulky pillar literally in the middle of it, so you can't like see the console properly. I think that's what's killing it for all of us, really, because it was, I think, I don't know, it's just very odd, isn't it, for such a small console room. It's smaller than the Capaldi console room. It's very weird to just have this big obstructing structure right in the middle of it. Yeah, hope maybe it'll get destroyed next season, who knows, but they torn down the Capaldi console for this.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's sort of like a natural come down, really, whatever's going to happen. But yeah. Anyway, so the other talking point, the opening title sequence, we finally got that. Of course, by that John Smith VFX guy. He was quite popular back in the day. So just thoughts on that, really brief thoughts on the title sequence, Ben.
I'm going to be honest. I found it just went really quick. Like I couldn't really digest it because within moments it was gone. Like there wasn't really, for me, I didn't feel like there was a sense of traveling. It kind of reminded me a mix of the Hartnell, like with the sort of opening bit, really. And I felt kind of let down because when the logo was revealed, I really liked the red crystal design, and that's literally been packaged on everything, on Big Finish, on books. It's on everything now. So I was kind of thinking, okay, that's what we're gonna get with the TARDIS because I really do like the red. But this, I kind of feel like it needed something more, maybe like a color change or something. It just felt very one note. It felt like it needed something a little bit extra. I'm a big fan of seeing the TARDIS fly around, so maybe we might get a variation next week. Because obviously the TARDIS was still missing, so maybe we'll get another variant of the title sequence. So who knows? But I just wanted something a little bit more from it. But the theme tune, very nice.
All right, Luke.
I'm going to agree with Ben on one thing about it sort of being quick, like not having that feeling of traveling in a way. But I sort of like that. I sort of like that it gets straight into it. It does, like he says, it's a bit like the Hartnell sequence, and I really like how it has that very classic feel to it. It feels like a classic Who title sequence from like the 60s or 70s, just brought into modern day. It feels like what they would do with that now, and it is very high quality. I'll say it's beautifully rendered. And I do love it. It matches well with the theme. I don't think it needs a TARDIS flying through or anything like that, or Jodie's face popping up or anything. I think it's fine as it is. It's got this otherworldly quality to it that I really do adore. And I could just sit there staring at that title sequence for ages, to be honest. I think it is easily one of the best we have ever had.
Should I put my mic on? Okay, James.
I've got to say, Ben, I completely disagree. I don't think that the intro needs a TARDIS flying around because there's. I think I made this point maybe the Christmas High Council or one of them. I rarely am so tired of seeing the TARDIS flying around because it's just not needed, and we've had it since we've had it since 1996, a straight TARDIS flying intro. Yes, we had it with the McCoy intro, but the McCoy intro wasn't just that TARDIS flying around. I don't think that Doctor Who's intro always needs a spirit of adventure because there are two elements to Doctor Who: adventure and mystery. And I feel the past 13 years have focused on more of the adventure aspect, while I really loved this is focusing on the mystery aspect. It's a very mysterious intro. It's very evocative of the Hartnell intro in the tone of it, but in the visuals, it's reminiscent of the Pertwee intro, which as well did have that sense of mystery in it as well. The colours of this swirling texture, it's almost like the inside of a brain. It's very interesting. Maybe it could. It didn't need to be that kind of brownish colour that it is, but it allows people to maybe come up with their own theories of what is like a Rorschach bit of paper where you see like this pattern and you have to say what it is. I really love that. The beginning of it with the warbling ball, that is definitely inspired by the McCoy intro. And the McCoy intro, I think, TV series-wise, is the best that the show has ever had. And I really love that they've taken inspiration from possibly two of the best Doctor Who intros in history. So I can say, apologies for the background noise, I'm in uni. What was I saying? McCoy, it took inspiration from two of the best title sequences the show has ever had. So I think as long as it's focusing on an aspect of the show, which is the mystery aspect, I think it's completely all fine. I do agree with the point it is maybe a little bit too short. The actual visuals only run to about 30 seconds. until it gets to the Ghost Monument title page of it. But I think that is just something for modern television now. I do notice lots of shows either have just a title card or a very, very short intro. So I guess that's what they're trying to go for, really. I love the Ron Grainer sting at the end of it as well, because we've not had that sting since, I want to say, the David Tennant era. I can't remember if maybe Matt Smith had the Ron Grainer sting at the end of the credits, but I like that that's in the intro now as well. I like the black screen for the titles. I also love how it talks about the series producer names. If I could just get that up. I'm not really too sure who they were.
It was Nikki's number on it.
Yeah,
I think it's Nikki Wilson, and it also had the
Yeah.
director.
That's it.
And it says the director of the story, which is Mark Tonderi. I probably mispronounced that horribly. That adds this really nice sense of professionalism to the intro, and it really makes the show feel more than just the actors and the writer, because directors and series producers are so important. So I really like that. Maybe it's missing a face. I was really hoping for a face, but it's so beautiful. I love it.
I think just one thing I would like to chime in on as well, while I remember, is sort of like this otherworldly quality to it. If you throw the TARDIS into that, the idea is that the time vortex is meant to be something you can't get your head around. It's not something physical you can really grasp, is it? That's often something you think of with Doctor Who, something that's, I think, is brought up quite a few times. But since we've had the the vortex, we've even seen it in some Tennant episodes and whatnot. I think like Utopia, where you've got Jack clinging onto the side of it, and you actually see the vortex and the TARDIS going through it. And when you've got the TARDIS going through it in the titles, it sort of takes away that magic of the vortex itself in a way, because it makes it something physical. Whereas here, when you don't have anything like that cutting through it, it does make it feel less tangible, if you get what I mean.
I agree. It's like He Who Owns. He made this great point in a video, and I think it was his Day of the Doctor video, and he mentions what does time look like? No, that's a clock, and he shows a picture of a clock. That is not what time looks like. You can't envision time, and I think that is where the Capaldi intro went completely wrong, because it delved too much into fantasy rather than the science of it. And I feel that this intro reflects the actual science of Doctor Who a lot more, of what can time possibly look like in a abstract sense. And Jodie is going back to that more theoretical, maybe scientist-like part of the Doctor that we've not really had much in the new series. Inklings of it with Capaldi, but she's a very almost quality Pertwee-esque Doctor I can kind of sense so far, but still completely her own. So I think that's what is completely its strong point. It represents both the tone of the show and the mystery, and it also represents the Doctor as well, and I think that's where it completely nails it.
And I think you brought up the word abstract there. That's definitely the word I would use to describe this. And so quite a few of the until the Tom Baker intro, it's sort of we had that more abstract style to it, and this is finally getting back to that, which I really do like.
Sweet, nice one. And Adam?
I'm not quite sure what else to add on to that. I thought that was a very nice deconstruction there. I just love the fact that you have this kind of orb, and it kind of sort of fades into, sort of transitions back into 16:9. You have the orb kind of in the middle and it expanding out. I love the logo transition. I thought that was very good and a lot better than, I guess, logo transitions that we've had. And the fact that the logo fly past the camera, all psychedelic, beautiful, lovely, and Sagan Akinola's theme just suits it really well. And I too like the fact that it kind of cuts to black with just in gold the title of the episode and the writer. I thought that was very good. Actually, I don't really feel like I have anything more to add. It was really cool.
Very nice. And Adam, I don't really have much more to add to that. That about sums it up for me as well. So those are the two sort of big talking points in this episode, but that doesn't really have much to do with this story at all. So we might as well talk about the story itself. The positives of this one, it's a mostly positive panel tonight, and we all enjoyed it. So let's talk about what we enjoyed about it. So Ben.
What I enjoyed about this episode more than last week is the pacing was actually really good. Things what I liked about this episode, like I said, very much back to basics. It feels like Doctor's been stripped back and we're going back to the 1960s because, like I said in the opening thoughts, like this, you could see this being like a 6-part Hartnell story. Like the boat section, you could see that just being one 25-minute episode, and I quite enjoyed that. Bradley Walsh, honestly, the highlight for me with this episode, with him with those shades, he was absolutely rocking it. Loved him. I love the actual concept of the ghost monument and the actual TARDIS reveal. I thought that was really clever. So what else have I got? My notes have gone, so I've just clicked that back on. So the monster itself, the voice of those weird bandage things, it kind of very much reminded me of the Wirren. The voices of those. And we got a nice bit of hints of the Stenza. We got a little reference back to Tim Shaw's lot. So whether they are the big bad of this series or it's just to sort of link it back to last week's episode, because it's like what Jodie said, and they've been marketing as this, this is brand new, back to basics. You don't have to watch every episode to understand it. But it was quite a nice little callback for people who watched it. But yeah, I found it very, very nice. Better than voice, we got a bit of Venetian Aikido, which was very nice to see Jodie go a bit of Venetian Aikido and get a little bit of a hint of where that came from. But yeah, overall, Bradley Walsh was the highlight for me with those blooming shades.
I agree with that point. I do agree. Luke.
Yeah, I do sort of feel like it's a very back to basics story. It's got that sense of adventure going for it. You got the different locations. It's very much split up into different things. And like Ben says, sort of could be a Hartnell episode with the each separate strand. You got the boat, as he mentioned. You got the what's it called, like the temple ruins type thing. You got the underground section. Quite a few different things that I could see working into that. So he's got a good point there. And I do have some problems with some parts of that. Like it does go a bit too quickly from point to point, and some bits don't get expanded upon too much. I think for the most part, it's not a problem of the 50-minute episode. I think it's a problem of how it spends some of that time. Like the whole thing of what's that whole section where Ryan runs out with the gun and shoots him and then runs back in because they get back up again. I'm not very fond of that. Like the new series very much has this obsession of the Doctor being like no to guns entirely, like in any situation, even though this is just against robots. Like what is realistically the difference between him running out with a gun and her doing what she did with the EMP type thing? Because that's technically setting off a bomb that's killing those things. It's sort of like that awkward line that you tread where guns obviously is a bit more outright violent in a way. But when you think about what it really is, it's pretty much the same concept, really. It's just one's a more widespread burst of it, whereas the other's just simple shooting. I also didn't like how.
Can I just butt in there?
Yeah, go for
it. I think she doesn't want Ryan to get into the habit of using a gun, because what happens when they go against a living enemy and he has another opportunity to use a gun? So it's more the Doctor knocking out that habit instantly for the future, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so I can see that. But at the same time, if you're in a situation where that would be like she had no idea that they would get back up after being shot. Or maybe if she did, she didn't mention it, which was a bit silly because Ryan could have got shot doing that. But just something. It just doesn't entirely sit right with me. It's not as bad as it has been in some episodes where the Doctor is like the 12th Doctor very much had that massive problem where he just hated anyone who was a soldier for no good reason, really, despite the Brigadier being his best friend many regenerations before that. But yeah, it's just something that I feel was maybe a little bit preachy. I'm not too sure. It just didn't really sit right with me and felt like an awkward waste of time, especially the whole Call of Duty thing and him charging out there and then comedically running back as they got up again. I feel like that section maybe could have been cut out. You could have started a 50-minute episode and just sort of like everything else would have flowed a bit better there. Or maybe had something similar to that, but just a little bit shorter, not quite as drawn out as that bit was. But I'm focusing too much on that one bit because overall I did really enjoy everything else that was going on there. You have this mystery of what's going on, and I do very much like that you don't know quite what's going on there yet. You've got to wait and find out as they go down to the tunnels. You've got more and more teasers of that. You've got the Doctor who's very interested in it, and you've got these two racers, or at least one of them. I can't remember. Remind me of their names again. Is it
Angstrom and Epzo?
Oh no, I think Epzo's the man.
Yeah, Epzo's the man and Angstrom is
Angstrom,
the woman.
Yeah. Epzo is very much the one who was against that. I think those were two quite good characters. But then at the end, it's sort of another thing of maybe it being rushed. Sort of like the idea that there has been growth in Epzo, where he goes, "Oh, we'll do it together. We'll do it together." Suddenly, that felt a bit like out of nowhere, given his character throughout the whole thing. Also, there were like hints of that change, like in the way, sort of like in circumstance of the fact that she did save his life. But you never really see that change with him. There's not really that many shots of him after that. Like he's just very much an extra in the background after that happens, really. So it's a bit unfortunate that they don't, that he doesn't get that little moment to ease into that transition of him doing the draw, and then also the fact that he threatens whatever that guy's name is. I can't remember, the tent guy. We'll just call him. So like, and the guy actually being afraid of that. And then so it just felt like it was a bit too neat of a way to bring the episode together, for me at least. But, overall, I did enjoy the journey that we went on with these characters. And once again, it's the fact that they feel like characters that I think makes that journey even more enjoyable. And you have that nice heartfelt moment with Jodie at the end where she feels like she's failed them. And I think, and also just nice elements of world building as well, with all the characters and whatnot, and the Stenzar coming back into it again. Not sure if they're going to be a not recurring villain as such, but I think we probably are going to see more of them if they've been in the first and second episode. There's probably more of them to come later down the line, I think. But yeah, just very enjoyable.
Very good, James.
In terms of the overall story, again, like Ben says, it's a very 60s-esque story. I kind of felt it was a bit like, again, the Keys of Marinus, and Art Millock's character, Ilan, who was like the kind of main honcho. He really kind of reminded me a little bit of the Celestial Toymaker kind of organising this game. So it was like this really lovely little tribute to 60s serials. And this kind of thing, it's like... here's a little thing I noticed. During Time Heist, the Doctor and Clara kind of sent on this like bank heist. In that episode, it never feels like they're actually doing a bank heist. It just feels like a normal Doctor Who story. While with this one, they actually flesh out what the game's about, why the planet's so dangerous. It would have been nice if the Doctor actually threw maybe like a chicken leg maybe into the water to actually see it just completely get disintegrated by the little microbes. What happens in this series is that they're just giving every scene meaning. Every surrounding is breathing with life. Even something like this planet where it's all very dead, but it feels like people were once here. And I think this is the absolute strong point of this series. The overall concept of the game, again, that's not enough to fill a full story. So they put like these lovely little character bits, which fleshed out Graham and Ryan's relationship, because at the end of episode 1, you're a bit unsure of how they were, but you kind of see that they're still unsettled with each other. And I think it's very obvious at the end of the series, Graham will die and Ryan will call him Grandad finally. Which, to really think that he needs to call him granddad, like, because he's not his granddad. Um, so a bit better. Because if I was in Ryan's position, I wouldn't. But again, it's lovely to have that interaction between those characters. Yaz to do in this episode, but I kind of think that maybe in future episodes she's going to have a few more environments and having drag these people along with her. It was very 60s esque. Are you going to get us home, Doctor? So I really love that feel to it. It's been a long time since we've had that almost kidnapping feel to the show. So I'm really excited to see if that gets touched on further, if they're going to ask to go home. Again, a lot of elements to the series. It's very multi-layered. I was a bit disappointed that we didn't actually see more of Art Malak as Ilan, because he's a great actor, and I thought he played that part tremendously well. So obviously you can't have him back, but I really feel he would absolutely be amazing in something like a historical. I could almost imagine him in also like this Marco Polo-esque story, because he did look very
sort of had a
regal
look like
on
that,
that
didn't he?
on that seat. What was that, Luke?
I was just saying, he even sort of had a historical look to him, didn't he? Like the
did.
clothes he was wearing, like the robes.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of thought his story was going to be. I read
I thought it'd be
from
the
trailer
Indian
last week.
Revolution or something like that. Like the sort of
Yeah.
Indian uprising. I kind of thought that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a story about that because this series is meant to be pure historical, isn't it? We're meant to be getting a few of those episodes.
So maybe his acting ability was maybe wasted in this episode, but I thought the position he was given was absolutely fantastic. And we'll have to see maybe what the pure historicals we're going to get in the series. I loved. I kind of love this. The messages that they're conveying in this in this series. In episode 1 we had the no knives message, and that felt completely natural. It was a lovely bit of dialogue, and it teaches kids about these things. And the Doctor with the no gun thing in this, I don't think any of it feels shoehorned. I think that the dialogue is very well constructed in order for it to feel natural. It actually shows the reason why guns are clumsy. In the fact you're very out in the open and you can run out of ammo, like what Ryan does, because he doesn't really know how to use it, and maybe it was low on charge anyway. It shows the clumsiness and the how you can use your brain to maybe overcome adversities. I think maybe in the next episode we can have the Doctor actually diffuse the situation by having a conversation. These are very important messages to children, and I think that that's what the series is conveying perfectly. Because the Doctor should be a role model, and I think that Jodie is very much a role model to all children. And I think that's superb, and it's not these what do you call it? It's not these very ham-fisted kind of lessons. Maybe again, apologies for the background noise. It's not these ham-fisted maybe messages like Kill the Moon, with that completely awful one-sided pro-life abortion message that completely and utterly failed. It'd actually be very interesting. Well, actually, scrap that point. It would be interesting. Actually, I'll continue. It would be interesting to see maybe if the series can maybe tackle a topic like that, or maybe that's just impossible to do in a television show. Chris Chibnall's era, I think, is very open to these things, and I really just can't praise this episode enough, really. I do think when we get onto the ratings, there is a limit. I think it really is impossible for this episode to have a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 just for the limitations of the story. But for the fact that we get this lovely sense of adventure and mystery, it's perfect Doctor Who. And I just really can't praise this episode enough. Definitely one that's going to be incredibly rewatchable, I think. Very casual.
Very well said. Adam.
I definitely agree with you earlier, Matt, that you were saying this is kind of the smile to Series 11 in the fact that it's kind of a cool, fun sci-fi romp following the opener where it establishes characters and such. I feel like one of the highlights for me was Mark Tondere's directing, because I feel like he put you right in the action, and when you had action set pieces, they always felt exciting and fun to watch. Even that ridiculous bit where Ryan does run out of the gun, guns blazing, which unintentionally I laughed at, just because I felt that bit. But I feel like a 19-year-old of Ryan would be that kind of guy who'd be playing Call of Duty and just have that bit of his character that just kind of, yeah, I'm going to go out all guns blazing, no matter what. But yeah, direction was very good, as it said, a picture of the action and stuff. Supporting casts were pretty solid on the whole. Art Malik being quite a standout. As someone said, like that celestial toymaker presence, I'd actually say that he did really well, and would work well in a historical. But I think in this episode, for the scene he had at the beginning and the scene he had at the end, that was very good too. I don't really know. Yasmin, I wish we got more screen time, I guess. Got more scenes with her, but the scenes we did have of her was very nice. And Mandip Gill I think Mandip Gill gives her a really warm presence, and I would love to see that explored, particularly when we had in the first episode that she's not getting much out of life, and so I hope that we'll get more scenes like that with her and the Doctor, perhaps later on in the series. Graham is brilliant, and Ryan is cool, and I'm intrigued to see where the Ryan-Graham dynamic sort of develops, considering they're not particularly on good paths at the moment. Maybe Graham could die, maybe Ryan could die. Who knows? It's all left up in the air. And also, whether this is a thing, I know Chibnall said no story arcs or anything, but what is the timeless child that the Ribbon Monsters, the Remnants, were on about? I don't know whether that will be a thing that the following episodes will bring up, or I know Chibnall, of course, will be writing a couple more episodes afterwards, so you never quite know who is the timeless child.
Just to add to that, sorry, as I said, sort of hope not. It was a good little scene, but I don't know. I feel sort of going into that sort of like personal territory again, like trying to explore the background of the Doctor. I don't know. I was a bit suspicious of where that was going, but right, James, do you want anything to say about that little scene that Adam brought up, or?
Give me a second. My flat. Shut the fuck
Oh,
up.
right, fair enough.
Yeah, we're fine now. Again, I really love kind of the mystery of the Doctor's time on Gallifrey, or the early days of Gallifrey, and I've kind of wanked that off. And did we do a Hellbent High Council, or did we do that off air? And I kind of spoke, it was very Lungbarrow-esque. I really liked that reference, and I really think it maybe hammers down that Jodie is the Doctor by having that reference to her past. I always suspected there was a series arc, because they literally said there was going to be like this interconnecting kind of story, like last year, or earlier this year, and then they've recently said, oh yeah, there's no story arc. The Timeless Child is very much referring to the Doctor, I do feel, especially because it's in her head, which I think is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I really hope it's not like fucking Torchwood Series 2, with Jack's brother Gray, who was just the most one-dimensional thing ever. And Jodie says, what can you see? So maybe it's hinting at the future. They're going to encounter something from the past. I don't think it's going to go Hellbent territory with all the kind of horrible retconning of the show. But it's just like this nice little element to the series, isn't it? So I can feel that we are in for something interesting, maybe, I guess. Or, do you know what? It might turn out to be complete bullshit, and it's just a reference to the Doctor's past. It will never be brought up again.
Yeah, possibly.
I just think it's going to be like one of those oncoming storm things. It's just going to be a line in an episode, and it's just going to be used throughout. Like, it's nothing. It's just a line. and people are going to look into it and do theory videos, what are going to be out week. I think that I think the problem with us fans is we look too deeply into things. Like we can't enjoy the moment. We have to look deeper to probably get more satisfaction, I guess. So I just quite enjoyed that scene from what it is. But yeah, but like I said, like Chibnall said that he wanted to do more character arc. So maybe we are going to get something. I hope not, because I just think that was just a nice little thing to go, oh, look, we're linking it back to the Doctor. And that was it. It was just a nice little line, and that's all it is.
Yeah, I hope so, to be honest. I know it's a bit of a petty comment, this one, but whatever. I mean, like, I enjoyed it for like these first two, like the family reference last week and that one for this week. But if it's all like, if they carry on with it, I don't know. It's just, you go into territory I'm not really a big fan of going into, so that's the only concern, really. That's a standout for me. Like everyone's already mentioned, there's nothing much to repeat, really. But of course, one of the main ones, the whole sort of cinematic feel to it. We saw clips of this episode in the trailer, and that's what's like the main one that sparked off the whole, the praise towards the cinematography for this whole series. The characters I enjoyed, even the two supporting ones, Enzo and whatever the other one was called. I enjoyed them for what they were, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, this was sort of like the smile to this series. I was just an episode. Just revolving around the characters, getting their reactions on the whole sort of situation to develop them, and of course, the dynamic between Graham and Ryan being like a main character drive towards this episode. So that's what the main praise towards it. That's what I enjoyed about it, really. But the premise of it, the whole sort of race thing, I enjoyed, and as James mentioned, the actor of the character I can't remember, but of course he was another standout as well. But yeah, it's an enjoyable episode, a good sort of second episode. It's just a nice little fun episode on a Sunday evening. So with positives, there comes negatives. So Ben.
I mean, there's not too much negative wise for me. I feel like they've all been kind of said in what people have said. Like Yaz, I feel like she could be utilized a little bit more. But I feel like next week's probably going to be Yaz's story. I feel like that's where we're going to explore Yaz a bit more as a character. I feel like the first 5 minutes for me, I think this is a problem with what I faced with this series so far. It's taken me quite a bit of time to actually get into the stories for me to actually click into it and actually go, right, this is happening. Like it took me about 5 minutes to actually start clicking and engaging with this story. Because I just felt like for me, it was just a bit like bang, bang, bang. This is happening. I was like, okay, slow down, please. I need to try and work out what's going on. So I think that was probably my main criticism for it. And the one thing what they've mentioned before is the Ryan Call of Duty thing. Like Adam justified it perfectly, but I just felt that was very cringe in my eyes. I feel like as a kid, I would have loved it, but as a mature person now, I say I'm mature. I thought that was a little bit cringe. But yeah, those are my little nitpicks really with the episode.
Fair dues. Luke.
Yeah, I feel like I accidentally went in a bit too much to my negatives in what was meant to be the positive section.
Don't worry.
But yeah, just reiterating them quickly. That gun thing, as I said. Just the fact that it bounces around a little bit too quickly for my taste in some parts. Like most of the time it's all right, but I feel like there are certain moments where it just does go a bit too quickly. And also I think the rate, you don't really get to feel like there was much of a race throughout the episode. Like you sort of have that at the start where you got the two ships coming down. That's very exciting. I love that opening very much. How you had the characters split up and whatnot and then coming together. But yeah, just negatives. Like that's where you get the feeling of a chase. When they get to the tent and they sort of like get their objectives to get across, I was sort of like expecting it to always be like the characters split up and two of them go with, like maybe the Doctor and Yaz went with Enzo, I think his name was, because they were in a ship, and then Ryan and Graham end up going with Angaram, or I can't remember her name. Something like that, so that there was an actual race, maybe. But no, instead you just got this whole group of six of them going together, and you never, like, you get some moments, but you don't really get what the actual race is meant to be, because neither of them are really racing there as such. They're just sort of like walking on. There was that moment where they split up actually in the ruins, but other than that, you never really got that sense there was an actual race between them, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's another negative I would have. But yeah, ultimately, I think there's not many negatives. It's like James said earlier. It's one that doesn't really have the potential to be a 10 out of 10, but it's very good as what it is. So yeah, I feel like it doesn't have as many negatives. It's dragged down a bit, not because it's like you don't start a rating as 10 out of 10 and then bump it down based on the negatives. I think so. The way you'd maybe do it would be start in the middle and then go out from there, I guess. Or so. I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly how ratings pop into.
No, I get what you mean. Like it succeeds what it wants to do, but what it's trying to be is nothing too spectacular.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a story that knows it's not going to be the best of the series, or it's not going to go down as a well-loved classic. But at the same time, it can be enjoyable as what it is, and it can be very much one you can go back and casually watch anytime. So yeah, that's pretty much rounded up my negatives. There's probably little bits here and there as well, but those are the ones that I remember for now. So yeah.
Very good. James, if you got any negatives to mention?
Where the fuck did she get Pythagoras' sunglasses from when her pockets were empty in the previous episode and this is a brand new coat?
Obviously, they were in the what's it called? The charity shop.
Yeah,
Definitely.
like maybe it was in Capaldi's coat, but I felt that was a little bit. I don't know. That was a little bit. I think backwards references. I kind of want to move past it, to be perfectly honest. Like even with Tom Baker had them, but they weren't every episode. They were like one a season. I kind of think I can't put a bit too many backwards references to things the Doctor's done in this episode, and I maybe that the child line could have been in a couple episodes, not now, because that was a bit tacked on, I do feel. The Sonic, I think it's being really overused. Dima Looney put on why does she only do things with the Sonic? Like that hatch that she opens could have been opened by hand. So Dima's right there completely.
Lazy
little
bit.
gadgets. Other gadgets as well. Would be nice for Heck, or she just there's a bit of technology in the corner. She whips one up for something the Sonic can't do. I kind of want to see less of the Sonic being waved about. It's like a bit of a toy commercial now. And I kind of hate the reading it like Matt Smith's one. Because at least Matt Smith, he wouldn't do it all the time, and I feel like she's done that about 20 times in this story. So it's just little niggles like that. What other negatives did I maybe have?
Can I counter that quickly about the Sonic in a way?
Oh yeah, go on.
Not a full-on cap. It's like, yeah, I do think it is overused, but at the same time, I don't think it's as bad as it has been sometimes because it wasn't used as a Deus Ex Machina way to resolve the story or get out of anything like that. It was just used to sort of like analyze the environment and everything. And
yeah,
I think it was overused in that sense, but I don't think it bothered me as much because it wasn't as tied to the plot. It wasn't a magic wand to get out of every situation. It was just a and it was used a bit to sort of like close the doors, but that's fine. That's closing doors. But compared to like say Day of the Doctor, where he sort of like waves it about to do the memory things and whatnot, you know, things like that, where it's just so tied into the resolution of the story, I don't like as much. But here, while it is overused, it doesn't bother me as much because it's not a get out of jail. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's different to a Deus Machina though, because I think it nullifies the intelligence of the Doctor. Because half the reading she reads, the Doctor's done in the past. Maybe like we can have her maybe one day test gravity with a yo-yo and not the Sonic if she ever does that in a future episode. I just feel like scanning the robot, she easily could have just looked at it and actually moved a bit of it about, and you would have figured it out. I think my thing, a criticism criticism I've had for years is the intelligence of the Doctor is always nullified. That was my criticism with the TARDIS repeatedly making fucking sonic screwdrivers, because it should be something the Doctor's made, because the Doctor's a scientist. And I really thought we were getting right back into that. I love not showing, just how smart they are. The Doctor's a smart ass, they like to show off. And I think that was maybe the Pythagoras line was a little bit of, that was my only kind of iffy line. Jodie's fantastic, though. Please don't take this as criticism of Jodie. Completely writing thing and a nitpick, but I think as long as we maybe get some of the stuff of the Doctor actually doing things herself, it'll be fine. It probably is just trying to establish what the sonic screwdriver can do in its brand new environment, and then we'll see little segments of what it can do throughout the series. It very much felt like, oh yeah, got the new toy out. Let's have a use it. But so maybe I can forgive it just for one episode. But if it does start recurring, I think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I think quickly, while you mentioned the Pythagoras line, like how she went on about him after when he's got a hangover, that felt very Moffat-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, I liked the hangover line, but I feel the shuntiness of putting it in felt Moffat-y in a way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, she could have just gave him a pair of sunglasses and that was it. And Bradley Walsh did look hilarious in those sunglasses. But, yeah, when the Doctor's had empty pockets and stuff, which was literally said, like, I think, like, 3 times in The Woman Who Falls, on the train, on the rooftop, he says empty pockets. A little nitpick, but...
Maybe she had them like stored away. She was there for a week after all. Maybe she like went over to unit or something and had her own little like storage box there that she kept from back in the day.
I think that's fair enough. The Doctor must have had to do something in that week.
Yeah.
I didn't realise we were doing positives before, but because I really don't have any negatives other to talk about, I really love this grittiness of space travel that Doctor Who's got back again, because what I really loved was, do you know that one continuous take that went on for about 2 minutes, a testament to the direction and the acting of this crew. If that was in the Moffat era, the Doctor would be cracking jokes, and then he would look at the camera and then scream Geronimo, and then it'd be the opening title sequence, and then after the title sequences, they would have landed on gritty planet in this, like, a very early steam train without a track. That's what I really love about this. The design of their ships the interior reminds me a lot of Jack Harkness's ship, and it just all the way back to series 1, and I'd say it was consistent throughout the RTD era, just the kind of grittiness and the realism, not so much the fantasy and Matt Smith being a prick all the time, like when he fell from space in Doctor the Wisdom and the Wardrobe. There was nice reasoning for how they survived space, with the grittiness of that opening shot, almost like a body horror film. I could kind of imagine them literally being back together pretty much and filled with nanobots, with the liquid and just all the instruments. It was very almost haunting. And I keep going into this series saying, "Oh, this series is going to be all happy go lucky." And I was kind of a bit not looking forward to this episode beforehand, because I did kind of think it was going to be one of those Moffat-y casual romps. But this episode rarely gets down in gritty, nitty details, and I love it so much. Again, everything feels breathing because of that. He's looked at what worked when Doctor Who came back, and I feel it is, again, that grittiness that rarely sells it completely. I think Chris Chibnall's got that completely nailed down.
Absolutely. And Adam, have you said your negatives?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no,
Oh,
carry on.
sorry.
It's cool, man. It's cool.
Carry on.
Oh no, James, carry on. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I said my negatives. I'm done
Sorry,
now.
James, you finished? Did I butt in then? Sorry.
Is
Right.
James cutting out in and out for anyone else?
I thought that was just me.
Oh no.
I think it's just you.
I was getting
Might be
thrown
me
off.
too.
So I keep like I'm like butting in towards the middle, but you know what I mean.
All right, I'm done. Continue.
You're done. Okay, there we are. Right, Adam. You sure you want to say negatives?
I think they've pretty much been mentioned. I feel like with a shorter supporting cast, maybe you could have had room for like scenes with Yasmin, but I think as Ben mentioned, it might be possible that Yasmin's episode is next week, or maybe even like the week after. I think the week after there are arachnids in the UK, it's going to be sort of more Earthbound again, which would be really cool. Back at Sheffield, which I think could that would be a really good opportunity to flesh out the characters.
We did get a tease of that in this episode as well, sort of her family. I mean,
Yeah,
to
that would be nice, but that would be perfect because we got like with the Sontaran stratagem, we have more scenes of seeing going back to see Will from Sylvia and stuff like that. So that kind of reoccurring element of the series. So
it's nice that stuff like this is being set up again. Whereas with you sort of like had Clara's Nan coming in like 10 episodes, and Clara's run out of nowhere, despite having never been mentioned before.
Yeah,
the one from Benidorm.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so that as for negatives from me, there's not much really I can add to it. I think they've basically been mentioned. Like we mentioned before, the set doesn't really have much negatives. It's easy what it tries to do, and that's it really. So to rate this one,
just one negative that came to mind.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that weird jump where Yaz is talking to Anger him or whatever. I can't remember her name. It's terrible. But they're having that conversation about her family, what's it called? The pilot's family back on her planet and whatnot. And she's just like, I don't know you. And she's like suddenly really defensive and doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah, do you remember that bit? And then like a couple of scenes later on the boat, she's opening up about it for no reason. It just felt like a random stop to sort of like say, oh wait, we'll save this for later.
Yeah, I can see that.
There were little jumps like that in terms of character that felt like maybe they were lost in the scripting or so, or maybe a scene was missed out. It just did feel a bit like characters were not sticking to what they had established before.
To be fair, we are going like proper nitpicking now, but I've sort of noticed that in the last two actually. Like sometimes the scenes don't fully flow, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
It's a bit jumpy, but that's like I said, that's a major nitpick. It's fine. It's nothing that takes you out of this episode, Nathan. It's just nothing like that. So the rating for this one, what were we all saying? Ben?
Visually beautiful and a rollickingly good adventure. I'm going to give it a very nice 8 custard creams out of 10.
Very good, Luke.
Yeah, I think I will go the same with 8 out of 10 because it is very beautiful to watch. It's a lot of fun to just go through. I think, like I said, there are bits that bother me, but you move on from them fairly quickly. It's not stuff that bothers you and stays with you. It's just like little bits, then you move on and, oh, you're enjoying this now instead. I think it very much has that go for it. It's very much a casual rewatch, something I can see myself coming back to just when I'm in the mood for something light to enjoy. And it fits that purpose very well. Like, not every Doctor Who episode has to aim to be this masterpiece of a story. It needed to be good. It needed to be fun. It needed to take characters on their first adventure through space, and it did all that very well, I'd say.
Yeah, James.
As I said before, the way that the story is laid out, with the game and stuff like that, it's impossible for it to be a 10 out of 10 because there's not enough to go there. And I wouldn't say it could reach a 9 out of 10, but what this does do is it gets an absolutely solid 8 out of 10. And I think we're all just going to pretty much say 8 out of 10 because it seems we all have barely any negatives for this episode and all positives. I think I gave Woman Who Felt Worth an 8 out of 10 as well, but this episode was still better, but it was a stronger 8 out of 10 if you get me. While I think Woman Who Fell to Earth was maybe kind of scratching it an 8 out of 10, this is fully getting the maximum of what an 8 out of 10 could be. Which I think that's completely fair, especially for an episode like this, really. So very, very high rankings for this series so far from me.
I agree, yeah. Adam?
I'll give this episode, The Ghost Monument, 8 Ribbons of Death out of 10. Yeah, it was fun, rollicking ride. And it's the same one I gave The Woman Who Fell to Earth. I gave that an 8. And I say, unlike James, I'd probably give both a strong 8 out of 10. I probably enjoyed them just as much. And it's kind of a nice sort of watching them, I guess, when you binge watching back, the two kind of nicely glued together very well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's eight all around. Good solid episode. Bit better than last week for me, but a good enjoyable start to the series. So of course we got a little clip of next week. Nothing too major. I think what we're all gathered really. That looks like it's going to be Yaz's episode. But if you've got anything else to say about the episode, we might as well give it a brief thoughts on that next time trailer. Ben.
Yeah, it's just classic Chibnall, not giving much away. You've got the basic idea of the story, and that's it. And what's interesting is this, what we assumed as fans and obviously speculated, that this would be a pure historical. And, by the trailer, it doesn't look like a pure historical because you've got like laser bolts going off. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think that it's going to be a surprising episode. And it definitely continues that early Doctor Who feel, very much the early Hartnell feel. So it's going to be an interesting one with a mix of that sort of, because it's a very big topic, isn't it? The whole sort of genesis, I guess, of the civil rights movement, really, because this obviously inspired Martin Luther King. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's handled. And obviously, the writer, this is the first story what's not written by Chris Chibnall, and apparently the writer who is writing this, I think is it Maria? I can't remember her name.
Mallory Blackburn.
Mallory. Yeah. Apparently she's the perfect candidate for this story, so it's going to be an interesting one, to say the least.
Yeah, well, I don't know much background on the writer, but like you said about the sci-fi element, that's the bit that's put me off, because I think next week's episode has potential to be like a proper standout thing for this series that's going to get like the mainstream talking, and the whole sci-fi thing has got me a bit worried, but we'll see where it goes. It's just a little concern.
I agree. The sci-fi thing is what's worrying me at the moment.
Yeah.
And I do like the whole idea of them changing history. Just feels like we're going to have a racist villain who doesn't want the civil rights movement to happen.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really sure how much maybe they'll twist that a bit and have him have a different reason for or something. But I don't know. I'm worried about this one. It could turn out to be fine. I hope it does.
Yeah.
And I'm very much looking forward to seeing a historical setting with this this new era of Doctor Who, where we'll have this very filmic quality to everything, and we have all these nice cameras, great directing, and everything like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that done for historical. But story-wise, I'm a bit worried. I'm not sure where they're going to go. Obviously, we don't know too much, so it could be fine. But slightly wary at this point, I'll say.
Yeah. James?
I think Luke just nailed that point about the potential racist villain. I think Chris Chibnall and his team of writers and directors, I feel that they've got a lot more in this series to work with than a very kind of generic plot like that. So it's interesting to see what they'll do with it. Maybe the guy with the gun in the trailer is actually trying to help save the day. Who knows? Because it seems that these trailers like to kind of subvert our expectations. Very cinematic, but this episode has to be good. I don't think this episode, with just how kind of like people are and the overall topic of this story, it has no excuse to be less than good, if you know what I mean.
I think it's probably the most sensitive topic Doctor Who's gone there, probably.
Oh, yeah, definitely. In terms of history, things like the massacre with the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, that was hundreds of years ago. While this, Although 50 years isn't that long of a time, especially in the
It's
history.
in living memory, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like when was it's the 50s, isn't it? I think.
55, I think.
Yeah, so it's not even that long before Doctor Who started when you think about it.
Exactly. So again, it's a very sensitive topic, and I really hope that there's a nuance to this. I hope it's just not what we said before of a generic racist one. And I think that the team is way better than that. I have so much hope for this team of writers and directors. I think they're bloody amazing.
Yeah, a racist villain could work if it's from the period, if you know what I mean. Like it's just someone of their time. But I think having someone go back in time who is racist, that sort of that feels a bit tacky. That's what like if it was a pure historical and the villain was just this racist person, then that would work because that fits the time.
Maybe we're applying Moffat logic too much. I think Thin Ice has really fucking scarred us, to be honest, with how topics are dealt. But with the knives message, the anti-gun message in these episodes, I really think that we're in for some subtle storytelling. Do you know what my main problem is? I hate these next time trailers because they do two of them. They do one at the end of the episode, and that will be tacked on at the end of BBC iPlayer. And then they have a advert trailer, including more clips for next year, which is then uploaded to social media. I fucking hate this. Just edit it into one trailer. Why is that so hard?
Right, I didn't know they had two different trailers.
Yep. I noticed this when I rewatched One Who Fell to Earth on second watch. It will have a next time trailer, and of course that has next time at the bottom, and then they'll upload a second advert trailer that's completely different in 16:9 format. It's that bloody weird marketing. I understand maybe it's trying to have something different for viewers when you watch an iPlayer and then when you go on YouTube, but I just don't think it works. I just just give me one next time trailer, man.
Yeah, I think they had it last year as well. To be fair, or they've had it for a while now, where it will be
kind of.
It's the trailer on TV, and then there's throughout the week to get people interested.
Oh no, I understand that, but this trailer, like the online trailer, appears immediately after the next time trailer on broadcast. That's kind of my issue with it. I'm fine with a secondary trailer coming throughout the week, but I just think it's ridiculous to have the next time trailer, show all the copyright, and then another trailer. It just feels really stupid.
Oh.
Yeah. If you go on iPlay, you kind of see what I mean. And then it kind of just irritates me a little bit.
Because to be honest, my mum hates next time trailers, so she'll always stop it as soon as the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
So I don't have to just fill up to my room.
I kind of feel like this series doesn't really need next time trailers, to be honest.
No, I agree with that.
I like that they're putting them
They're not exactly bloody showing anything, are they?
No.
Just overall the general concept. And I kind of like watching these stories, this series, because there's a lot that we haven't seen in terms of shots. Then when we do see a shot that's been in the trailer previously, I kind of get this underwhelming feeling, if you kind of get it. If you do you understand what I mean by that?
You could sort of predict it in a way, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
I think with movies and whatnot, especially, you'll sort of think, oh, well, this can't happen because I've seen in the trailer there's a shot that I haven't seen in this movie yet.
Yeah. So, of course you need trailers for marketing, but again, maybe they don't need next time trailers, who knows? We are a quarter into the series now, aren't we? Or a fifth? That's quite scary. Yeah, a fifth. Yeah. That's quite terrifying.
That feels weird.
A Christmas special immediately after, pretty much. So
that's very true.
A little bit of an extension, but not much.
See, this is nice, isn't it? You don't really want this series to kind of end, and we're already 2 episodes in. While I feel with the recent years, I think you get 2 episodes in and you're just fucking begging for the series to end. Series 10 was a bit of fresh air. You were kind of begging for that to end, amongst 3-parter, but Yeah, it's a testament to the strong writing so far, and I hope that continues next week. I'm very intrigued. Disappointed it's not pure historical, but hey how.
Yeah.
I still love the fact that we only know up to episode 4 at the moment. Like we have no idea what's coming for the finale. Like last year, we knew we were getting Cyberman Missy and John Sim at the end, so that sort of ruined episodes building up to it. You knew they were filler, whereas here, episodes don't necessarily feel like filler as much because you don't know what you've got to come. You don't know what you've got to look forward to. You just got that tunnel vision of only the next episode and sometimes the episode after.
Yeah, I really wish they will announce the episode title after the broadcast, for the next episode. Because I was quite disappointed when I found out that the episode was Rosa earlier this week for episode 3. I don't know.
It's too similar to Rose, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just one letter change.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. It's not the title. It's just like, I like finding it. I like, do you know that feeling? Do you know when you were a kid in 2006 and you didn't read Radio Times or whatever, and you'd watch a Next Time trailer and then you had no idea what it would be, and then, it's in a school. Sarah Jane Smith is back. Or next episode after that, Next Time trailer. Wonder what will happen. Cybermen. I just like that mystery of what's coming next. Well, when we have these episode titles and they release the shots early, I kind of feel it removes that level of mystery. So I kind of wish they'll just reveal the episode titles after the broadcast.
I feel like you were saying earlier about how you didn't think we needed Next Time trailers, and now you're saying about wanting the episode title revealed after. Could it be like we had with back in the early days where it would say next episode and then the title of the episode, then credits roll? Would that be
no, that was just... I'm fine with the trailers this year. I think I was just more suggesting, does it really need trailers? But of course, marketing, I did say before, yes, it does. But no, I'm fine with having a Next Time trailer. Just make it one coherent trailer on broadcast, please. And then having the episode revealed on a title revealed online, pretty much. Because I just don't really like to know what's coming next, really. If that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, and Adam, anything to add to the whole next week trailer discussion thing?
Not an awful lot. I'm just intrigued about Vinette Robinson, how she'll do in the role. I'm sure she'll be pretty good. Apparently, this isn't her first appearance in Doctor Who. She was in 42, which is no surprise because that was written by Chris Chibnall, so maybe there was something there. I feel this could be. Hopefully, I just hope this is another home run. I kind of had that feeling with Series 10. I thought with like the first couple of episodes, we were kind of, getting a solid one each week, which felt like wow, like who knew? But yeah, maybe this could be another home run. Who knows? But I got pretty not high hopes, but pretty good hopes.
Very good.
One thing I kind of hope for next week, though, is I think it's a bit weird to not have a Sheffield episode next, if that makes sense, because there's been this theme of wanting to go home, and I feel like why the fuck would you want to go on a time travel when you're wanting to go home? So if this episode maybe starts off in Sheffield and they've had like a week break or something, I'd be completely fine with that. But I don't really want this episode to just kind of like open up in the 1950s, if that kind of makes sense. Because
I think they're definitely going to have a reason to get there, because this episode ended with them saying, "Oh, well, let's go back home now." Then, I feel like there's going to be like maybe because the TARDIS is new and whatnot, it'll drop them off roll, and they'll be there and everything.
I think it'll be kind of what Tennant did with Martha, going, well, you've had your trip in the future, well, why not have one in the past, so you've had
if I was wanting to go home, I would be like, no, fuck off, take me home. Like, if I was those characters.
I feel like they should have had something at the end of this story where, because obviously that was when they found out it was a time machine, wasn't it? Like, right at the end. I feel like they could have maybe said, well, prove it or something like that, or and just something to lead it more in rather than having them wanting to go home.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get that at the start of next episode, but yeah, we definitely got to have something just to lead it in. But I'm fine with it not going to Sheffield, just because I don't want to go back there instantly. Like, and we've got that the week after anyway. So I feel like we do need, because that's going to be the coming home story, isn't it?
Yeah,
just continuity.
pretty much. And I think that about sums it up for the discussion on this week's one. So yeah, as for the whole, so next week I don't know what channel we're going to be on. Right now, for the last 2 weeks we've been on Ben's, but I don't think I explained. But basically, I can't sign into my account, so that's what we're doing on Ben's. So I'll try and sort it out within the next week. But yeah, if not, we'll see you here at the same time next week. And that's it. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Goodbye. Ben, end stream.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.